The films you are about to see were taken in Blarney in 1955, 1956 and 1957. Many changes have taken place during the intervening years, but Blarney is as famous as ever. You will recognize many people who are still with us, but sadly some have passed away. The 1950s was a period of little national and economic progress, and emigration was at a high level. However, at that time, Blarney was fortunate in having a thriving woolen mill. In order to boost the national morale and to encourage tourism, a national festival called On Toastal was introduced, and the people of Blarney quickly organized their own toastal. As a result of the community spirit and the help of a newly set up local organization, detailed arrangements were made and everything was in readiness to raise the special toastal flag for the opening. The local committee were proud of the fact that the Taoiseach, the late Mr. John A. Costello, consented to perform the official opening. A visit to the famous Blarney Castle and climbing to the top was of course an important part of the proceedings. The Taoiseach could not leave without kissing the famous stone. After the inspection of the Guard of Honour and the appropriate speeches, a school's choir performed for the entertainment of all present. Displays of boys and girls marching and Irish dancing were much appreciated by the large crowd. The children's fancy dress was a great success, I wonder, after over 30 years, will some of the people present who were then children remember those happy days in the now distant past? Another event which took place at the time was the opening of the grotto in honor of the Marian year. This was a solemn event, and again it was well organized. The whole community took part, and the march from the church to the newly erected grotto was very impressive. to the 1956 Toastal, and this was a very special day for Blarney because the American ambassador at the time, Mr. Taft, gladly accepted the invitation to perform the official opening of the Blarney Toastal. As Mr. Taft was visiting the castle, it was necessary for the requirements of protocol to have the flags of Ireland and America flying on the castle before his arrival. Again, the flags were erected in the square in readiness for its official functions. Having inspected the guard of honor in the square, he went to the castle, where he kissed the famous Blarney stone. No doubt if he had not already got the gift of the gab, he was now confident that his eloquence would know no bounds. Returning to the square, the toastal flag was hoisted and the school's choir were again present for their very pleasant performance. After the speeches, Mr. and Mrs. Taft and the people present enjoyed the performances of the Irish harpist and Irish dancing. We now leave the official entertainment and travel up the Waterloo Road, where preparations for a game of bowls is in progress. Bowl playing is a very old game in Cork, and traditionally, wagers are put on the favourite players. And despite the bad times, there appears to be no shortage of paper money. big crowd shows, great interest is taken in the proceedings. The skill of the players is shown by the accuracy with which the ball is thrown and landed on a particular spot on the road. The playing may involve the lofting of the ball, which weighs 28 ounces, over obstacles such as walls or hedges at bends in the road. The winner is the player who succeeds in reaching the end of the course with the least number of throws of the ball. At last, a winner is declared and is very proud to accept the winning cup. We now go to a different type of sport, which is the old sport of drag hunting, and which is still very popular in Cork. The dogs used are harriers, and of course, country course is fixed. Traditionally, halfway in the course, two people divide a piece of horseflesh and drag the meat in opposite directions. One to start and one to finish. This lays the scent along the course over which the dogs will run. The dogs follow the scent and the pace is fast, but very often difficult due to the obstacles and terrain along the course. The dogs are very tired, but they are well looked after by their proud owners. However, it is a fine day's outdoor sports for both men and dogs. Back again in the village, we find this year's fancy dress getting underway. No doubt it will be recalled by many in the years between. We now go to the more adult and leisurely pastime of dancing. The Ema Hall was the local dancing venue for the young people, and maybe not so young, of the village and surrounding areas. Perhaps many will recall with nostalgia the pleasant hours spent in what may now be termed the ballroom of romance. In those days, things were simpler, and ice cream, minerals, cakes, sandwiches, and tea were provided during the dances. Bands had generally a variety of instruments, and the saxophone and trumpet were always very popular. The show bands gave very sophisticated and professional performances. We hope many will remember those carefree days with pleasant recollections. In 1957, the Children's Toastal took place. From the Emo Hall, the colourful parade proceeded through the village to the sports field, where sports were arranged. Sports fixtures were very popular in many places, and Blarney was no exception. Again, the event was well organised, and the competitions took place in the field overshadowed by the castle. Many competitors took part in running, jumping, cycling and other events. At the end of a very enjoyable day's sport, the prizes were distributed to the winners. The last event to be recorded was the children's fancy dress. The colour and the very imaginative costumes of all the participants was indeed a credit to the parents, organisers, and of course the children who took part. Again, happy memories of those now far-off days in the past will be recalled as we journey back memory lane to some of the events which happened in the 1950s.